Yes, Aaron Carter has an unfinished posthumous memoir that is imminently getting released by his publisher. And his publicist says that is being released against his wishes because he actually backed out of working on the book before he died.
Yeah.
His publicist said it to Page 6. Aaron, in the midst of working on the book, said, "I want nothing to do with this," and stopped. So the fact that the publisher is saying it's greenlit, it's not. It's against his wishes. So now Hilary Duff, who dated him in their teen years, she's 35, he died at 34.
She dated that old guy when she was a teen.
See?
This was from 2001 to 2004, and then she dated Joel Madden from 2004 to 2006.
Who's Joel Madden?
From Good Charlotte.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was in his established 20s at that point.
So Hilary Duff has commented on this situation, saying that she is she's sad that they are making this decision to capitalize on the high profile, like, untimely death that they're trying to make money off of the attention around his name right now by fast tracking the publishing. They're going to call it Aaron Carter, an incomplete story of an incomplete life, which is really kind of a distasteful title.
Really
the
bad.
publisher is called Ballast Books, and the writer who was working on it with him is named Andy Simmons. He's a journalist. No surprise there. No offense, Santa Clara, but
I identify as a writer.
there are some
for
unethical
timcast.com.
journalists out there. And Andy Simmons claims that he is doing this to tell the much needed story of Aaron Carter's life that he was totally on board with. He said, "That story, while tragically cut short, was filled with good and bad. His life was far from pretty, and understandably, certain people in the public eye don't want some of the stories Aaron tells in his book to come to light. That doesn't make them any less true or newsworthy. Aaron had a right, as we all do, to tell his story. As a journalist, I am honored that he chose me to help him do that. In addition to being cathartic for him, Aaron hoped this book would help others struggling with addiction and mental illness. I hope and believe it will do this." So Hilary Duff has come out and told the New York Post, Entertainment Online, that she is really sad that within a week of Aaron's death, there's a publisher that seems to be recklessly pushing a book out to capitalize on this tragedy without taking appropriate time or care to fact check the validity of his work. What she's saying needs to be fact checked is possibly a claim that Carter made in this autobiography. Now, we're not sure if it was completely or only partially ghost written. That this claim is that he, in his memoir, said, "Hilary and I lost our virginity to each other at a hotel in LA. I think it was her birthday, maybe her 13th, but I don't remember. Her friends walked in and we just yelled at them to get out." So this is an excerpt that the New York Post got in advance from the book. This is definitely in it. And Hilary Duff has hinted that that is not true and that she actually lost her virginity to Joel Madden much later. So that's just one thing that needs fact checking. There could be other details she knows are in the book that she believes are false or unverified that come from Andy Simmons and not directly from Aaron Carter. So it seems like, also based on the way that Aaron Carter seemed in his final interviews, he wasn't even able to keep a conversation coherently. I don't see him being able to write coherently and recall all of these details accurately. I feel like it was mostly being orchestrated by the publisher.
Shouldn't none of this matter? Like, what the journalist said is major gaslighting, because it's not what he would want, because he didn't want the book to come out.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a he said, she said. The publicist is saying he backed out. The journalist is saying he didn't.
Okay.
And we don't really know.
That's extremely ghoulish.
I wouldn't put it past the journalist and the publisher at all
Also,
to
all
release
those
the book
words-
against his wishes.
All those words don't matter to me, because they're saying he would want this book to help people's mental health. First of all, unless he says that, I don't know that that's true. Mm-hmm. And it's extremely ghoulish to go off the backs of people who are struggling and act like you're doing this for any reason other than to make a profit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the publisher has probably invested in this book, and even if Aaron Carter verbally said like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know, typically the contract has it where like there is an expectation, or he can be at fault just to pay a certain amount of money, you know, things like that. I obviously feel like there is. He's obviously a very like complicated and tragic person, and because he was this teeny bopper icon, there is an amount of curiosity that I'm sure would be profitable. I'm sure this book could sell even if he was alive and make a lot of money. Some people put up biographies when their career is down to try and revive it. I think probably it would have been successful either way. I don't know that it's necessary to release it, and I think in some respects, like, it would be the decent thing for the publisher to say, like, I won't do this, but they have already, I've never heard of this publishing house. They don't seem like they're very big. Like, if they have invested heavily into this, I can understand where they're like, no, we have to put our company and everyone who works here first. You know what I mean?
All they've admitted they're doing is postponing it, like, by a very short time. They're not going with the release date, which was originally today, the 15th.
Yep. So they said
they're postponing the release like 10 days
like,
or something for like condolences to his family.
Which is the most arbitrary number ever.
And like, would his like for like 10 days, right?
Days.
So like, would his family be able to like file an injunction and seek, you know, some kind of preventative measure from having this book get out? I mean, theoretically, did he just like call his publicist and was like, I don't want to do this, or did he write it in an email and we can show that in documents? Like, there has to be a way to pursue this. But what I feel like is going to happen is it's all going to get hashed out in the press, which is almost worse considering this is like a very like kind of terrible demise to someone who has a young child and obviously like grew up in a pretty terrible industry.
Fans of his were like harassing his girlfriend when she was moving out of his apartment. I saw.
What?
Yeah, they didn't like her at all.
They had a really tumultuous relationship.
Also, I saw that he's not just dealing with this book. He has an unreleased album that just got leaked called what was it called, Blacklisted, and then a single that got leaked that was supposed to come out later, but you know eventually wouldn't have come out, called Lately. So it's like these things happen.
I don't like posthumous release of music either. They did that with XXXTentacion. They did that with Lil Peep.
There's like still Tupac, like people remixing Tupac. Like,
I mean, remixing is different than like, but you're taking songs that they planned to release or they didn't even plan to release,
there was a lot
but
of
made,
unreleased stuff,
and releasing it to profit off of
that was
their
also
death.
true of Sylvia Plath. Her husband Ted Hughes published a book of her unfinished work, you know, that he found theoretically in her desk drawer. That's also true of is it Louisa May Alcott, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird? She had the sequel. I don't remember what it's called, but like except in her case, she specifically said, I don't want this to be published. And then when she died, someone was like, she would have wanted this. Let's put it out there.
She was always telling me one thing and doing another.
This reminds me of,
Not
you know,
Louisa May Alcott,
using the propped up corpse of Chadwick Boseman to promote Wakanda Forever. I don't know if it's against his wishes or not, but obviously he couldn't have foreseen that. They're using his Twitter account to encourage people to watch this movie that he is not a part of after his death. It reminds me of, you know, our conversation about Kevin Conroy's death and how I was thinking, you know, it doesn't really matter whether he would agree with this ethically or not. I feel like, especially with voice actors, like Kevin Conroy, like even James Earl Jones, once, you know, I mean, he's no longer able to work, but like once he dies, I feel like they're just going to assume that their voice is public domain that they can manipulate with AI and use for their own purposes, and it's not their creative work anymore. Like, they just feel like this entitlement to dead, like their legacy.
It makes me wonder, especially with Aaron Carter, like with the child star aspect of it. It was like, how long have you been viewed as like this cash cow for people who, like, when you're a public figure, it comes with all these like side people you employ, right? Like your publicist or your personal assistant or your security person. Like, you become like your own small business just by the nature of being alive, right? And like, how many people are looking for a final payout here, which like makes me uncomfortable. On the other hand, like, I guess you have to make a living.
But this is unique because his management team and publicist are all saying that Hilary Duff is right. His management team thanked her for speaking up. She said they're watering down Aaron's life story to what seems to be unverified clickbait for profit, and it's disgusting. In no way do I condone shedding any light on what is so obviously an uninformed, heartless money grab. And it's not just being a cash cow if you're a child star. I think it's also lifelong being a sacrificial lamb for the entertainment business. Like, you never had a choice if you grew up in the spotlight to back away. Like, they have unequivocally like sacrificed this person on a world stage.
It's the same
entirely.
conversation that we see a lot now with like family vlog channels on YouTube, that like their children are from a very, very young age, often at birth, depicted online. A lot of private details are shown of them. Their faces are always shown. Their families are making money off them. Various families make various claims about like what their kids are getting paid. But unlike child actors in Hollywood, they are not protected by any legal regulations, right? So they don't have the opportunity to opt out, and they also don't have any legal recourse.
Mom says film this TikTok right now. You go film the TikTok right now because you don't have any type of
Or like what
regulation to protect you.
Just think about the fact that there were 13 the kids turning like what's a normal age to start like hanging out on YouTube or like looking at stuff? 12, 13?
Well, 12 or 13 because
Right?
that's what it says
And
in the TOS that you have to be 13.
And you realize that your like pictures of you as a baby in a diaper have been on YouTube for almost a decade, right? Like that's going to happen. That's happening all the time right now, and that's happening to more and more kids. And that's not a direct comparison to what's going on with Aaron Carter. It just shows you how desensitized to capitalizing off people who are dependents, you know, a lot of people can be. What I would really like to see is, instead of this being battled out in the press, and like good for Hilary Duff for making a statement, you know, good for his PR team for, you know, advocating for what they think is right, but like really we have to go back to the contract and see what
Thank you, guys.
what clause we have to
you so
exercise,
much.
because like
Guys.
you can't expect something that's a business to just out of the goodness of their heart decide they're not going to make money.
No, absolutely.
I wish they would.
That brings me to my next question.
But-
I want to ask, is there an acceptable time frame? If all the circumstances lined up perfectly and he wanted the book to come out, he had agreed to the book to coming out but died just before they were about to publish, is there an acceptable time frame in which they should wait?
If he agreed to it
Thank you.
and the property belonged to his estate.
He died without a will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I don't think he was planning on dying that night. But yeah, if it belonged to his estate and they knew for sure that he wanted it to be published and had not backed out, I think that would be ethical. However, it doesn't belong to his estate. It belongs to this publishing house and the co-writer.
Well, then what
the
about
estate? I mean, if he has one, I assume he does now. If they actively oppose it, and he told them that he wanted nothing to do with it, and they continued working on it without him.
But we can't prove that one way or the other, right? We don't know. It's he said, he said.
I mean,
Right,
that's
we
why I
can't
want
prove
to go to
it.
court. Somebody pull out the email.
They're
where he's
probably
like,
gonna publish
"I am
it, and
out,"
then
or the
the
voicemail where
management
he's like,
team-
"I don't want to do this." Like, it'd be great if there were solid evidence, but I think if there were solid evidence, they would have just gone the legal route, right?
Maybe they're waiting to see if they're actually going to release it.
Maybe.
And then once the publisher releases it, the management team might have grounds to sue.
Right.
So-
I would also argue that like it is very difficult now to publish a memoir when the subject of it is not there to at least give his. So like if I
do a
publish,
press
It's
tour.
literally
Yeah.
called an
Like-
incomplete story.
if I publish a memoir, right, and I'm like, every time I went to Pop Culture Crisis, Brett and Mary talked down to me and they were so mean or whatever, right? A lot of times you can print that and it's okay because it's your recollection of what happened, right?
Yeah.
As long as you claim to being honest, your best.
She's not
recollection.
blinking help in Morse code, guys. She's
No,
not.
I'm totally fine. I love it here. I am not being forced to watch Fast and Furious movies. But in this case, like we have a specific example with this, like losing your virginity story with Hilary Duff, right? Like we now no longer know if Aaron was like, here is how I remember this scenario, or if the writer is taking creative liberties to
Yeah.
get salacious clickbait. And the only one who can verify it is Hilary Duff, who didn't ask to be involved in this project anyways and doesn't profit off it. So I don't really understand ethically how this book can come out, and even if it's like his memoir, his reflections, it'd be very difficult to pinpoint where it's Aaron Carter maybe his journals, maybe he already wrote part of the book, or where it's this writer who's working with him who is taking creative liberties to fill in the gaps. Yeah. And that, I think, would make it very difficult to publish.
Even if this were Aaron Carter's work and we could verify that, I still don't even think it's very nice to publish this information specifically about Hilary Duff during her childhood, something that's very inherently private information, to release that about a then 12, 13-year-old and something that intimate and something no one should know about, to release that for salacious reasons is, I think, really just distasteful and mean. Even if it's not illegal,
it's still that's a whole industry.
If it's not defamatory,
it's
still, I think, immoral.
And that's the thing.
Gross.
Like, if he was alive and the book got published and the story came out and she was like, "That's not true, Aaron. Like, you're making up lies about me." Like, it would be a very different fight than like her being like, "I don't even know if he said that. If you said this, or if this is you, a guy who stands to profit off this and who's not connected to it emotionally, filling in the gaps." Let's say.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.